It has the power to transform a piece of art or design. It can completely shift the mood. Whether you use multiple colors in a chaotic fashion, stick to a harmonious chosen few colors, or even focus on shades of only one color, you have the power to influence with your color choices. In this video, I'll dive into how to transform your art with just one color while sharing my creative process for an ongoing art series I've been working on. Once you master the concept, there really is so much you can do with a single hue. Have you ever noticed how some colors make you feel a certain way? Well, there is psychology behind the usage of certain colors and how they contribute to evoking specific emotions and responses. For the two pieces I create in this video, I'm using the concept of two song titles from Taylor Swift's album, The Tortured Poets Department, each with a sad theme. I wanted them to feel related, so I used similar shades of blue to tie them into the series, while also leaning into the psychology of blue to create a somber mood. But you don't always have to use color to match the message you're sharing. You can also use it to have an opposing effect. For example, maybe the words you choose sound harsh or angry, but when you pair them with a cool-toned color palette, it softens the mood instead of intensifying it, which might be what you're going after. The type of medium you use also influences how the color shows up on your paper or canvas. I'm using gouache paint on a white handmade paper, mixing in either white to lighten the blue or a darker navy to deepen the blue. I had to play around with the color a bit, adding more paint to get the desired color I had in mind. A tip to remember with paint: you tend to need to mix in a lot more white versus less of a darker color to dramatically change the shade of the color. These were some swatch tests I made in my sketchbook. I also played around with adding script lettering on top, using a black brush pen. The words featured are other lyrics from the song. You could choose to go completely monochromatic and only use one shade of blue, but I wanted to give depth by adding light and darkness. I did decide to use color differently in both of these pieces. For the first, I wanted to cover the paper in shades of blue to accentuate the concept of loss, as noted in the song title, Loss of My Life. Whereas in the second piece, I chose to use blue as more of a highlight on top of the collage piece. For the type layout on this one, I chose a right alignment. Since the collage piece of the eye bleeds off of the right side of the page, and I want the words to touch on the left edge of the image. Right aligning with a typewriter is not easy. You basically need to count backwards the amount of characters. Luckily, these two words are short, but if you're doing this for a complete sentence, you might want to sketch it out beforehand and make sure you do your math right. Adding pencil lines, like the ones I'm erasing here, definitely help to guide you with where you want your type lines to sit. With some of these art pieces, I would tape down the collage elements first and then thread it through the typewriter. However, the typewriter does roll the paper and sometimes messes it up. So for this one, I reversed the order. I added the type first, then glued the image on to avoid ruining it. Here I'm mixing two different shades of blue to paint teardrops on top of the eye image. I wanted to contrast the tears from a light blue to a darker toned blue. Painting teardrop shapes is very therapeutic. I wasn't worried about creating perfect shapes. I wanted to lean into the imperfect nature of tears and sadness. I started with the first tears coming from the eye in the lighter blue and finished the last few teardrops bleeding off of the page with the darker blue. I really love how this piece in the series came out, one of my favorites. It's also giving me ideas for how to experiment more with collage and gouache paint in the future. If you want to see the rest of the art in this series, I'll leave links to those videos in the description below. I'm close to completing the series now. While the first dozen pieces were created before the album came out and I even heard the music, these two were actually created after I listened to the album. One of the reasons I waited to do track 12 until after I listened is it's written as an acronym, LOML, which at the time I had no idea what it stood for. But after hearing the song, I learned it stands for Loss of My Life. I continued to experiment by painting more teardrop shapes in my sketchbook and creating another spread to balance out the first one. For the teardrops falling from the words "down bad," I reversed the color order. I started with the darker shade of blue first and ended with the lighter blue, just to add a bit of diversity to the composition. Let me know what your thoughts are on these two pieces. Which one is your favorite? And what are your thoughts on working within one color? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts.